there, wonderful humans. Welcome back to Board Game Dads. My name is Anthony, and I have two extremely special guests today. Stephen and Mariella are my very good gaming friends, also the board game godparents to our second child. and and were joining me on the Dice Tower retreat, of which this video is all going to be about a reflection of that. They were lucky enough to get in and hang out with me there. No, this makes no sense. I'm not going to say that again. They joined me at the Dice Tower retreat. We all had a blast, and we're going to do some reflections here, or recap on how the event was and all the games that we played. Steve and Mariella, welcome to Board Game Dads. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yes, we're not dads, but we do like board games, so we'll meet you halfway.
Yes, that's why there's two names in that, two parts of that name. So you are pet parents.
Dog dads and moms.
Yes, dog dads.
One big dog.
I could be a dad. We're also really good at dad jokes, so.
I speak in straight dad jokes. So.
There you go. It's an easy language to pick up. It really is. So before we get into any of the games that we played, and by the way, we do have quite the list. We plan on going through all the games that we collectively played. And I say collectively because there were parts of this event that Mariella was absent for and parts that Steve was sort of absent for. And we'll go into that a little bit in detail later. But all of the games here were played by one, if not more, of the three of us. So there's that. Before we get into that, overall impressions. And I guess I'm asking you how it felt when you first walked into the gaming room, because I know the first time I went to the retreat, it was pretty magical upon entering. I don't know. What do you guys think?
We've both been to PAX East and PAX Unplugged, both larger conventions. This was our first Dice Tower retreat, and certainly the most unique gathering for board games specifically. It was, to be honest, it was like a paradise because, we tried to sneak in games during the week, and this was just, everybody was there to try new games, meet people, and just play until you were too tired to keep going. So for me, it was I wish it was longer. That time flew by, but it was
agreed.
It was a great experience.
And then when you were too tired, you got coffee and then played more games.
Right.
I think, for what your expectations are for a retreat, you kind of think about all the different conferences that you've gone to, and you kind of get this overwhelming, it's coming at you. It's not like you're sort of involved. And I felt like when we walked in, and I think, Anthony, you and I walked in first because Steve wasn't yet there. And it was just like, oh, yeah, we're going to do this. And I think as soon as we got our badges, we went straight to a table and just started playing. And it was just like the realization of all of the things that you've ever wanted out of a gaming experience, which was, all right, we're going to put a game down, finish a game, put it down, take another one, and just kind of keep going through. I think to the point where we looked up and skipped a few meals.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, if you're thinking about going for the first time, definitely bring snacks. I think we picked that up on day 2 or 3. Have your meals pre-ordered. Have them bring them to you.
Definitely need to eat.
It's truly what you said, Anthony, magical. It was just, the sheer volume of games, of, different style of games. I'm a big dice, fan, which I can't wait to talk about the game I didn't play but really wanted to. So it really had everything for every style, and I thought that was the beautiful thing about it.
Sure. For sure. If you were looking at all those tables out, you could see a game being played at one table that was completely and utterly opposite of a game that was 2 tables away. These giant sprawling 2-table games, and then a bunch of little roll and writes going on too at the same time. So you walk into this room, and normally when you walk into a room with a crowded room full of people, at least for me personally, I try to disappear as soon as possible, right? But when you walk into this room, everybody who sees you come in knows exactly why you're there, right? Like, here's another person that's going to play board games with us over the next 5 days. And to your point, Steve, I definitely agree that it could have been longer, and I don't think I would have gotten tired of it a couple more days. So The reason that we should mention now, I guess, is that we were not all three of us together the entire time. Steve was with us the whole time physically, but he did have some work for the first couple of days, so he was kind of in the hotel room for a good bit. Would come down when he was done. So Mariella and I did kick things off on the first day, and then a couple days later, sadly, Mariella had to leave us to go to another engagement. So Steve and I wrapped up
without board games. There were no board games.
There were some board games. We played Telestrations. There were plenty of board games when I was going.
I'll repeat myself. There were no board games at this secondary location.
But if you felt like it needed to be longer, I certainly felt like it needed to be longer.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, I always think of events like this that there's always going to be something to look forward to for the next one, right? And for PAX, which was a couple of years ago now, the second time I went, I was like, I want to play more games. Like I didn't play any games the first time, at least not in like the in the venue hall itself. But now your next retreat, you're going to be there the whole time. Steve's not going to have to work, and we'll get the full experience out of the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think too, at PAX kind of making a point of going into the Dice Tower sort of room where folks are playing. I think we could do a little bit more of that and get that same experience in a smaller bite size for a larger conference.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so why don't we get into it a little bit here, and we're going to start off with obviously day one. Like I mentioned a little while ago, it was just Mariella and I at first, but just for the first game. Steve was in on the second one, so he came in pretty quickly. But first thing that we got down is a new game, and it's kind of the hotness, so I was excited to get that played, and that's Brew. We were making some potions and moving some dice around. So, Ella, you got your dice itch in there. What'd you think of Brew overall?
I loved it. I really am excited by games who can take something like nature or resource gathering and make it fun and not sort of, I don't want to say laborious because that's not what it is, but it really made you think about how you were using your dice rolls to get the most out of your turn. And I loved this sort of added layer of the element dice, which added cool things like swapping, burning your opponent's, sorry, Anthony, burning out your opponent's chances.
I lost this game, by the way, in case you're wondering.
Tell. Yeah, so I thought, it really brought the elemental. It brought like the cool kind of Pokemon theme. Like you had these creatures and I thought it was great for 2 players, which was interesting for me, particularly because you're sort of battling out for this space. But I definitely would be interested to see how we play with more than 2 players.
Yeah, I think it's so because it's area control and you can manipulate the other player's dice, it can be a little mean. So it's interesting you said that. I kind of almost feel the opposite in that I would. Well, let me start over. I also would like to play it with more than 2 players, but I feel like the 2-player version is lacking a little bit because it's just 2-player. But I only played it once, so I don't really have anything else to compare it to.
Yeah, there was a little back and forth, but I feel like because I had an edge, maybe I was enjoying it too much. I guess from the perspective of like maybe not having, the choices that you want available, it kind of could be really an alarming play. Yeah.
But I agree. It was cool to have something a little bit different than just gathering, wood and rock to make a building or something. It was a little bit different there. And the dice components were gorgeous. Really cool.
Really pretty.
So glad we got that one.
It's a mean game. Is that even meaner at 2 players, or are you guys able to like do your own thing?
There's only, I think, 3 cards that are sort of up for grabs at one given time.
I think, was it 3 or 4? I think it was 3. So there was always one that we were really fighting for if the point salad was high.
Right. And they all have 5 or 6 different spots to put your dice on to start controlling them. But then some things let you either switch a dice out of there or put yours on top of another player's die. That's really mean. It's like, oh, yours is there. Like literally jumping on someone else's piece. Me.
I've got to say, sometimes I like that competitive edge.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, very, very cool looking game. Would definitely try that one again. You guys own that already, right?
We do. It's over here somewhere. We're trying to find it, but yeah, I own it, but I've not played it, and so hopefully Mariella can teach me one of these days.
All right, so Steve finally joined us after Brew, and we moved on to another very new game that I think is technically just came out, maybe like recently.
I think it's Kickstarter, maybe.
It was available at Gen Con as well, I think, and that's On the Rocks, which is a mixology themed game that has really cool components as well. These little marbles of different colors, and they're in these little rubber bowls. And basically, you're trying to complete these different drink orders, but the boards are really cool. That's recessed boards with little holes in it for your marbles to rest on. There's 4 different types of drinks that you're trying to make, and it was pretty entertaining, and I didn't feel like it was redundant. I didn't feel like I was always doing the same thing. I don't know. I feel like there was a good amount of strategy, right? Because you couldn't always decide which cup of the ingredients to take without sacrificing. Like if one of them had a bad one in it, you're like, oh, is it worth it to get all this stuff? What'd you guys think of that one?
Yeah, the marble drafting mechanism was nice because it constantly changed, but I found myself lying to myself about how how much the spill, like the black marbles that would make you draw a negative card, how much that would affect me, because it was guaranteed to ruin one of the drinks that I was crafting.
Yeah.
So there's that balance of like, do I want all these marbles even though there's a bad marble in it, or should I take something less that's safer? And it goes pretty quick once we learn the rules. That was one that we taught ourselves, I think, right?
So yes, that's correct.
Not terrible to learn. I enjoyed it. Didn't overstay its welcome either. I think it was pretty fun overall. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I put this one on my wish list basically because I did enjoy it quite a bit. And to your point about the spill marbles, I think the only situation where it might be okay, and again, there's luck involved, but if that whole cup you take is going to finish your drink for you and score it, then that's great. And if you also have maybe one drink that you just started, there's like 1 marble in it, if you're going to lose that. But some of them are like, lose all your red marbles, right? And you're like, oh man, it's like
that's a new finished drink.
3 drinks.
Yeah. And if it was the only drink with red marbles, you were like, kind of starting all over. And I really liked, sometimes the same color can kind of come up often, and I felt like there was no one cup with like all one color, so you really had to take on sort of extras and fill up whatever that little corner was called.
The little ingredients shelf or whatever for excess stuff.
For excess. So you kind of had this balance of like, I can prep for my next turn, but it never gave you an advantage for like, I'm going to take all these reds and finish like an entire drink pretty quickly.
Right. Yeah, pretty cool theme. There's not a lot of games about. There's a good amount of games about like brewing beer at this point, I would say. And then you've got obviously. Oh, bless you.
Thank you.
You've got viticulture and vinos and other couple of wine things, but the mixed drink theme is, I think, relatively unique. So I appreciate that. That was pretty cool. All right, next up. Oh, Steve blew us away in that one, by the way.
I was wondering. I was like,
oh, no. I'm sorry. No, he did win, but he did not blow you away. He only beat you by 1 point. He blew me away.
Okay.
I was very much in last place.
But you enjoyed yourself.
Oh, I did. And I got my revenge on the following game, which was one of the few games we played twice at the retreat.
But never correctly.
we did mess up a couple times. So, of course, the game I won has like an asterisk by it. This is called Iwari, which Steve and Mariella recently acquired.
I loved this game.
This was very pretty to look at too. Yes. And so I don't remember, Steve, now that you have the game, did we play with like a standard version or was that upgraded components?
There is a deluxe version. I think we played with the deluxe version. And it was like also an expansion, but I believe the deluxe version has some screen printing on the tents, and also more importantly is there's those extra boards that we might have played with them, but there's one double-sided board in the standard version and then like 3 or 4 double-sided boards in the deluxe version. So that's what's missing. I don't know that it was I can't remember the map making a huge difference in any of the games that we played.
The map itself is a pretty standard looking, multicolored blob continent looking things, right? But the pieces you put out are really
beautiful,
great.
yeah, and they look the same. This feels like it should be a deluxe version, but let's see here.
Where's the camera?
Oh, nice! Really, yeah, those are exactly the same.
Texture, nice color.
It's nice. Stacked really sweetly.
Yep. And what's cool also is every player color was a little bit different. The tents were all different. The totems, I think, even have a different kind of design on them, right?
Yep.
So yeah, very cool looking game. We should say basically area control and a sort of route building combination with a couple random bonuses in there. An interesting scoring thing with those numbers along the board, right? Because at the beginning of the game, you would cover up randomly some of these connecting numbers that would connect these regions, and then after, well, this is a game that has a midway scoring and then a final score.
Right, two phases.
Right, so you would go like number one, find the connecting number one. All right, he's got the most in this side, he's got the most here. Very, very cool looking game. Pretty strategic. The artwork on the cards is really, really cool. I mean, like worthy of getting a print of to hang up in your house for sure. And yeah, just a great one, Owari. So I'm glad you guys got this. Definitely would love to try this with the four of us in person someday for sure.
With all of the rules.
Yes. The first time around, we messed up like the bonus totem things or whatever. Yeah. And what did we do wrong the second time?
We were putting more totems than there were tents.
Right.
There's like two main rules. One of them is the 3-2-1 rule, where you can play 3 cards, up to 3 cards, place 2 pieces on one territory, and we were breaking that one rule.
Right.
We were placing on multiple territories, which we were all doing, so it worked, but it does make sense why these rules exist, because it does limit on your choices. One of the options was like to discard a card, and we never did that because why would you ever not play all your pieces you could play? But it's because you're limited to one territory mostly, so you often would just trade cards or discard.
Right. Makes a lot more sense.
Definitely an advantage to placing tents in more than one region.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't.
But you can't.
No, we house ruled it. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. No, still a great time. I'm glad we played it twice, and I'm gonna play it again.
So we're off to a really great start. These are 3 really cool games, and it doesn't stop because the next game is another pretty new game. I believe came out last year only, and that's Nidavellir.
I think so.
Which is basically about a set collection for the most part. You're basically going to these 3 different taverns in town, I guess, and recruiting these different dwarves for some kind of mission or something like that. I don't know what
to fight a dragon.
The dragon. There you go. Now this is another one that you own already.
I think it's right
about there.
Okay. Oh, there's Brew.
Oh yeah. But
really sweet art. Also, I felt.
Yeah.
It was just kind of downtoned but bright. It's really made part of the game for me.
Yeah, because it's a lot of grayscale, but there's good pops of color there as well.
Grayscale dwarves, and then the important parts, the color cards, are the sets that you're collecting.
Right.
So the theme kind of went over our heads, whatever, but the understanding, the different cards was easy to grasp. And we played that twice, actually, right? With a couple newcomers. That was one of our first, I think so. I think, did you have, you might have gotten to play with Lauren.
Oh, that's right.
So we played with us, great, with 3, and then
gotcha.
Good another couple join us right after. And they loved it too, as far as I could tell.
Yeah, this was a unique take on a bidding game. I typically don't like bidding for things that much in games. I just feel like I'm always making a really stupid bonehead move.
It's hard to know the worth of, like what is this worth? Am I bidding too much?
But what's cool about this game is you're bidding for first pick basically at each of these locations, but no matter what you bid, you're going to get something. So that's one like kind of relief about it. You can't really screw it up super bad. And then what's really cool about this, and I've never seen this before, one of the places that you can essentially bet, and again, it's just like face down stuff. You're taking these coins and you can bet towards the bottom of your board, not getting one of the dwarves, but then in turn upgrading one of those coins to a higher value coin, which again then lets you bid higher amounts later. It's a pretty cool little upgrade system that happens in that game too. So I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the really cool thing that I remember from this game, aside from like the mechanics, but the retreat itself, you spend a lot of time kind of walking around and looking at other people's tables, and
yeah,
you know, you see all of this layouts, you see design for the games itself, and they can be pretty breathtaking. And I think this was one of the games where people were like, you're bidding, but you're like, it looked so interesting on the table that we were able to make kind of new friends to engage with it, which is really cool.
All right. So speaking of Lauren, my wife, basically, and I've mentioned this before on some of my other videos, but we have had an incredible streak of playing games, the two of us together, which started December. Oh, thank you.
So impressive.
Started December 30th, which was our anniversary. And our goal was let's play a game every day from now until Valentine's Day. And that happened. And then we just kept going, and one thing led to another. And now we're like over 200 something days in. So there was a time when I thought that my going to the retreat without my wife was going to be the end of the streak. But in true friendship, these two said, nay, we will not let the streak die. You will play games with your wife. And so we played remotely, at least one game every day that I was in Miami at the retreat. Sometimes Steve joined me, sometimes not, but it got done. So in the interim, when you guys are probably playing Nidavellir again, I played something else.
1 second.
Go ahead.
You glazed over a major event in this streak of the birth of your daughter.
Yeah, that's true.
Played games. I'm sure it wasn't during that experience, but it's still impressive that I couldn't let a gaming retreat be the cause of your streak breaking, especially.
It would have been sadly ironic
during this year.
We were able to play at hospital, but not in Miami.
Right. Yes,
pass.
we did.
I'm too busy playing games, honey.
I don't have time to play games. I got games to play. Yeah, we got through a lot. We were discussing the end of the streak last night, actually, because it does have to end at some point, because
and that we don't live forever. Yes, but you know,
no. But could you imagine?
I mean,
one of us is on our deathbed.
We're like, in the future, I'm sure there's a reason to stop playing,
but I said to her, I don't want it to ever get to the point where it becomes such a task that it becomes not fun, right? And there's even been a couple of times when it's been like, oh my God, we got to play a game, and like we're really tired, or I don't feel good, blah, blah, blah. And we figured it out. But I don't want that to always be the case. So we decided the plan for now, anyway, is we're going to go get to a full year. Obviously, that's the end goal now. That would be December 30th of 2021. We will then play games the very next day on New Year's Eve to make it a year and a day. Mm-hmm. And then New Year's Day, we take the day off, and then we do whatever we want after that.
So we're coming over. Will you play games with us?
Yes.
Ooh, we're inviting ourselves over.
You should come over for New Year's Eve.
You know what's really wild, I think, too, is like, even when, you're doing something like this where you're constantly on a streak of playing games and you're playing every day and you're tired, there's really always a game for the level of activity that you're feeling. You're like, let's just do tic-tac-toe. Like, let's just...
We've almost played rock, paper, scissors before. It's funny that you mentioned that because the game that always gets us through when we have like no time is a game that I've ragged on a lot. And that's one of Lauren's favorites, called Pass the Pandas. I know you guys have played this with us as well.
Pandas.
I look, it's a good game. It's an okay game. It's not a great two-player game because there's only two people, and every die you roll that you're giving away is automatically going to the other person. But we played it tonight, literally, just in case Lauren was too tired when I was done recording. She didn't want to play something, and I think we played the game in like 45 seconds. I'm not even joking.
Who won?
I won.
Oh, nice.
I always win the insignificant luck, no skill games.
Come on.
So there's that. But I digress. Later on that evening, I got to play a game that was only new to me. You guys introduced it to me, and that is the abstract strategy 2-player game Yinch, which I've heard mentioned many, many times over the past decade or so, listening to board game stuff. There you go, right there. Part of a series of abstract games. Are they all 2-player in that line, to your knowledge?
Oh, without knowing for sure, I'd say yes.
Yeah.
But it's possible that there's more than 6, I think.
Yeah.
And so it could be. I think they're all abstract 2-player games, but I'm not 100%.
I will say that I did go through every game during the retreat, and I just love this one. Like, I didn't get to play them all, but I feel as far as it's like a mix of Othello and checkers, and it's just like all of this sort of nostalgia, but you are really in it. Like, it is a big strategy game.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's reminiscent of a chess type game. It's a game where you're going to really think about your move, and unless you're like in a tournament or something, not like apologize for taking a long time, because you only get one shot at this. And there's, you can screw something up majorly and really regret it. Very strategic, very nice looking game, great components. I mean, you had to fiddle with those chips the whole time. They're just begging for it. And this particular one looks like little Oreo cookies, which is dangerous. But we played this twice. So I beat Steve, and then I lost to Ella. So there's that. I'm considering getting this game for a couple of reasons. I mean, I did really enjoy it. 2-player games are always on my radar, just because it's me and Lauren. But also, I teach a chess after school program.
Absolutely.
And I like to bring other stuff in every once in a while. I always bring in Onitama, and it's always a big hit. I think this would be a cool thing to put out and teach and just be a little bit of a different variant for sure. So very cool. Very glad I got to play that. Again, the great thing about this event, you just get to play these games that you might never get to play. All right. We played one more game to end the evening.
I'm sorry, I just read it.
And oh boy. So this is another new game. I believe this also just came out.
It was like 1:00 in the morning, wasn't it?
Yes. So look, like we mentioned, you forget to eat. It's kind of like being in a casino. There are no windows.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of fluorescent light, and you have no idea what time it is unless you're always looking at your phone. And when you do, you're like, holy crap, so much time went by.
But when you lose, it doesn't hurt as bad.
So this was the last one for the first night, and we were definitely a little loopy. This game is called 10, just a small card game, and I can't even describe how it works. Steve, you got to take this one because I can't.
Take it away.
This is one that we taught ourselves to, like, post midnight of that first day.
Yeah.
Don't recommend.
It's a push your luck game where you're trying to collect cards in a sequence, but if you during your turn draw cards that add up to greater than 10, then your turn ends, and then everybody else gets to take cards from what's there. But there's like positive, negative cards. So that kind of slows down your march towards 10 points.
Right.
And then once the deck's done, it's like you just there's like 4 sets of 1 to 10 in different colors, and so every largest set of each color.
Yeah, you're just trying to get like straights, basically, right?
Yeah. But there's also like wild cards and wild colors and all that. So I think I asked to play this again a few times during the week, and I was shot down. I enjoyed it. I like these types of games. They're quick, but it was definitely tough the first night to sell that.
I would give it another shot. I just think it was, I think it was too much.
Honestly, I think at this point it's become such an epic game that makes us like just gut laugh. Like we laugh so much just thinking about it.
Yeah. So if anything, it's memorable for sure.
From the delirious experience that we had at 1 a.m. So if you're going to experience it at least once, definitely do it when you have no time and no sleep.
I think I promised that I could teach this game quickly, not knowing how to play it fully, and that added to the
I feel like I've
struggle.
I feel like I've heard this a lot in my life with this man.
Hi, I watched the video. Just let me just read the rule book real quick.
I got this.
10 hours later.
All right,
this
so
game I really love.
We stayed up late. We got up late, and this was another time that it was just Ella and I to start off the day. We started off with a game called Trails, which, if you've ever played Parks, is very similar. What are the major differences that you would say, Mariella, between those two?
I think Parks had a little bit more to gain out of every turn. So you have a little bit more decision making as far as what track you want it to go in your point building. So photography, or there's a few other elements to Parks. I felt like this was a little bit more streamlined.
Yeah, I think that was the point for sure.
Yeah, and I cannot tell you which one I liked better. Not that I need to have a favorite, but I think that they're in their respect to very similar games, but they just play differently.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this. I don't actually know if you can play this with more than 2 people, but I really enjoyed this for a 2-player game.
Is it really just a 2-player?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either, actually.
We have Parks here, but
I have it right. I actually have it right here.
No, because remember you could flip it for 2 to 4 for 3
to 4 it's 2 to 4. Yeah. But I agree. I think this one plays better at 2, and I think Parks plays better with 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. Good looking components like in
Parks?
Not yes, Parks? Thank you.
Oh.
You said it first.
So I feel like Parks tried really hard to make their components like top notch. So is the Trails the same? I mean, even like the standard game inserts all fit beautifully together, and like everything is like all the trays are.
Yeah, it wasn't that. It's definitely a lot less than that. I don't even know if there was an insert. I don't remember.
Yeah, and I think they use cubes for the resources instead of what they have for Parks, which I think is the actual punch
Parks
out.
has like leaves and
they have actual wooden
animals and stuff.
Yeah. So these were cubes, so it was but honestly, I think I appreciated the cubes a little more. I don't know. It was just easier to kind of keep track of.
You're trading them in so often anyway. It's just like kind of like throwing them around. But I think definitely a great 2-player experience for sure. All right, then we got to one that is definitely on my wish list as well. And it's funny, I saw a couple of videos about this game, and I was like kind of met on it. But when we played it, I was like, "Yep, this is definitely going into the collection." And that's a flipping right called Super Mega Lucky Box.
I think my favorite part of this whole game was saying Super Mega Lucky Box over and over again.
Yes.
Like when we were like close to winning, or like we're picking a card, we're like Super Mega Lucky Box. Like it's a good, and the artwork itself is very what is the School Rock?
Yeah, Schoolhouse Rock.
Schoolhouse
exactly.
Rock. Schoolhouse Rock, and it was kind of nostalgic, but you were like, kind of casino bet. Like it was all of these interesting.
It was almost like doing like a scratch off, lottery ticket kind of thing. It was cool. Yeah, another quick one. It's a great filler game for sure. I think probably able to be played over Zoom, so that's always a plus.
Is it a standout to you amongst other ones that are similar?
It is, because I like how you're almost getting like a bingo card, right? Like every card is a little bit different, and some of the numbers are going to be more common, or no, not more common, but higher value. But you don't use, I forget, Mariella, you don't use the whole deck, right? Wasn't there like you dealt out half? I think 9 cards, and then the other 9
you put
after
some
that.
to the side, so you don't really know what you're going to pull. And once the deck's over,
it has a it feels a little bit like Silver and Gold.
Yes.
In that you have a couple cards in front of you and you're trying to, finish all of them if you can. But a little less, I guess, a little less lucky. Because in Silver and Gold, all the shapes that are going to come out except for one. And in this game, it was about like half the numbers might not come out. But yeah, I would pick this one up for sure.
Cool.
All right. I believe, headed back to the room for a bit at this point to probably bug Steve and tell him to come play games with us. And while we were waiting for him to finish whatever he was doing, we played a game called Codex. So this was new to me. This was a game that you guys actually own.
Codex Nautilus.
Yes, we should distinguish because there's a couple different names for another game.
Nautilus.
It says Naturalist.
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 Yeah.
I absolutely love this game. I think it's so pretty to look at.
Yeah.
It's got this. Well, the tin is pretty cool. It's easy to travel with. It's easy to travel with. It's not easy to play just anywhere. So if you kind of like to play right before you eat dinner.
Yes. Not ideal for that. We played in the hotel room on this like oval shaped table / ottoman thing, and it was a little challenging. Beautiful cards. So nice.
About it. They're so pretty. And yeah, you're kind of building out this landscape to gather points based on the symbols that you draw. And you don't really know what direction you're going to take until you know the direction you're going to take. And then it's kind of a quick game in that you only score 20 points. 21?
25, something like
that. Yeah, 20 points until the game is over. So you spend a lot of time thinking about the long game, but really it's quite in between. So you kind of find that you're losing pretty quickly or winning.
Well, that's how I felt. Because I lost. Now, the next game we played was definitely a highlight of the weekend for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason is we got to play this game with Tom Vasel himself, who, if you're watching this and you don't know, we talked about the Dice Tower Retreat, then probably have no idea what we're talking about. But he's basically the man in charge of the Dice Tower. And I said, hey, you want to play a game? And he's like, yes, we're going to play one of the best games ever designed, ever in the history of games. And I was like, all right. I sense a little bit of sarcasm here. And he grabbed like a white card box that was not even the game box, right?
Custom? Is that overselling
it? Sure. And this game, by the way, is called Magical Athlete. And I've heard Tom talk about this game, talk about loving to play it at conventions and events. And I had no idea what this game was about, but man, was it a riot. It was so much fun. This is basically a racing game. It's a roll and move game. I mean, you're literally rolling a die and moving your player that many pieces around this racetrack. The catch being that you have a whole bunch of different racers that each have a different ability, and you're basically drafting them. And then when everyone has their team of racers, you start to run the races. So we go race one, everybody put in who they want to run race one, flip them over. All right, it's Cthulhu versus the zombie,
Frankenstein.
Versus Frankenstein versus the pixie or whatever. And Tom has, I don't know how many cards for this game. Whatever the amount is, it's like 100 times the amount that come in the game. It's absurd. But that's what made it so much fun.
Yeah. He made his own custom cards too.
He made a bunch, or somebody made a bunch, like a fan just made a bunch, and he got them from him, and it was a riot. It really was. We played this game with the three of us and Tom, and then two people that we ended up playing games with a lot after this one, and that's Ellen Kirby of We Game Together, their own YouTube channel, and on the Dice Tower as well.
Ellen.
Hi, Ellen. And their friend, Chrissy, who lives in the same town as them. She told me how they met. She saw them on the Dice Tower, heard them say where they lived, and she was like, I'm pretty sure I live like around the corner from you guys. And they became friends, and then they hang out all the time and play games. So it was such a great story, and they were a great addition to the game. We had such a blast, and I won. I was six-player game.
And you know what? Honestly, though, well played. Because everything was happening in all types of motions. It was just so I don't want to say chaotic because we understood the stakes.
Yeah. It was chaotic, but it was organized.
It was really sweet.
You had Tom Vasel keeping you in check too. Like you have a punishing character, and you still pulled out the win enough to do it.
My favorite character that I had was Cthulhu. Cthulhu made every other racer in that race required to complete the track twice instead of once. And then when they completed the track once, I got to always move 6 spots on my turn. So I just had to wait out a little bit. Like true to theme, Cthulhu eventually devours everything.
I think.
And so that was that.
Was this the same one where someone landed on my space? They just like disappeared, or like I ate them.
I think so. Yes.
I was like,
yeah, you were the plant
eater. And still, like, how did you win that? I was eating people.
Oh man, definitely would have played this one again. Although I don't know, I think we got spoiled, right? And I think I would only want to play that version with all those characters to choose from.
I think so. I made the mistake of playing it safe, picking like non-crazy characters, and it's like totally not. That's not what you should do. You should pick something sounds like
the most chaotic one. Yep.
Pick that character and let it, see how it plays with whoever you're up against.
So that was definitely one of the highlights for sure, and it's followed up here by, unfortunately, I think, and I can't speak for Steve, but I'll get his opinion in a minute. Probably my least favorite game that we played at the retreat. And that's called Megaland.
Mm-hmm.
Where was I?
You met someone for dinner that
I had dinner.
Right?
You're right.
So, Steve, this was from is this from Ryan Lockett, I think?
It looks like his art. I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
This is really interesting to me that you didn't like this, because I feel like this has gotten a lot of internet love.
It's
like a video game, board game. That's like, I mean, that's what they were going for, I think, which is fine.
It's like push your luck, a little bit of Machi Koro in terms of like drafting city buildings to get points. It should be quick. I just felt like when we were playing that the push your luck was very sane between turns, but also like non-threatening after a point. And
well, there were only so many cards that you were gonna
like,
possibly
10 cards.
See,
right?
And it did have that video game theme because you could like jump over some monsters or whatever. But can
we say Mario?
Yeah,
Mario.
Exactly.
Like a platformer, I guess, but like in very abstract ways and not in the best ways for what makes video games like
I think what my biggest complaint that kind of started the sour taste for me was that, and I mean, I guess this was just me not seeing it in the rules, but there's these cards that you get, which are, like, I forget now, diamonds or carrots or all these different, resources that you're collecting throughout this, video game. And the card would have a symbol on it, like a carrot, and then a number in the corner. And we thought that meant, okay, this card is worth 10 carrots or 20 diamonds. And in the rules, I'm like, how do you buy stuff? Like, how do I make change or whatever for this? It just meant that was how many of those things are in the deck. I had no idea that was the number.
That's a weird component to put.
It was
on
odd.
The card.
It was not intuitive. But
I think the worst part was probably the rule book compared to the gameplay. Felt very simple once we got into it, but we definitely struggled to understand all that, especially the carrot number thing and all the ingredients. Just like it dragged. It just felt like the buildup didn't lead up to a good payoff. Yeah,
it was the one game where I was kind of like, all right, this will be over soon, and we'll play something else.
Do you think if you had more, I don't know if you played with other players, but if you had more players, it would be more intricate or interesting?
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think so, because the push your luck is like, I don't know how we were doing it, but it's like, do you want to keep going? Do you want to keep going? And then like, we would just keep doing it. We would do it together. And like, so having more people deciding to stay or leave, you're pretty much playing independent from everybody else.
Agreed.
So there wasn't much interaction with that. I don't think more people would make it better.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I'm glad I was at dinner, I guess.
You dodged a bullet.
Well, after that, we played a game with some pretty cool components as well. I think this is relatively new, also, and I'm going to try to pronounce it the way it's pronounced. Coatl. It's
Yeah. Codal,
Coatl.
waffle. I don't know. Do you know?
Coatl, maybe?
It's basically these plastic dragon pieces that you're building this long toy dragon snake thing. I told Steve while we were playing, it reminded me of those like plastic snakes you would get at like a street fair where
And
you would
you'd
just
like,
hold it and it would go back and forth. It
Yeah.
had that feel to it for
Yeah.
sure. Very colorful game. The pieces are great. The artwork on the cards was pretty cool too. I I liked it. I wanted to get a second shot at it. I feel like I jumped the gun too soon in that I scored one of my Coatls too early, and I could have gotten a lot more points had I not chosen to score it right away. But interesting drafting kind of stuff. What do you think about that one, Steve?
I think between these two games, this was like a low point for the whole thing. For the whole weekend.
really?
Yeah, I think that because you're collecting cards and you can have two Coatls being built at the same time. So there's like all this stuff that you have to consider, and these cards, you kind of like collect cards to have when you finish one of these Coatls in order to score more points from all the cards relative to that dragon. And so there's like a lot going on, and like you said, I think we finished our first ones too quick because you should be building them out more. But
I get satisfy as many of these point
Yeah.
cards as you can with
And
one Coatl, basically.
you can decide when to cash out on something that you built.
But then it's done. Then it's not going to score you any more points.
Okay.
I didn't feel like I had like my decisions led to building a strategy or influence the outcome. I felt like I was kind of grabbing what was out there based on like, oh, I need red and blue pieces. I'm going to grab those up. And if I see cards that have points for scoring red and blue or one or the other, I'm going to grab that too. So like it was kind of on rails in terms of like whatever cards I had initially and then what I
was going to dictate what you were collecting. That. Yeah, that's a good point.
It was, nice looking game. Bless you.
Bless you.
But right after Megaland, it didn't like get me back into it, I think. So
that's true. That's fair. Yeah, it wasn't a good rebound game.
It's been fortunate in its placement during the weekend, but I just it didn't. It's forgettable for me.
Agreed. But after that, we got an old favorite at this point back to the table, and that was Quacks of Quedlinburg.
Oh, yeah. So I have that out of order, but that's.
Oh, okay. We taught that to one person, I believe.
I don't have it here. Huh. I didn't add it to my list.
Oh.
The records are incomplete.
Oh.
This is why you always go with pen and paper.
Not a sanctioned event anymore now. All right. But Quacks, if you've never played that, you got to play that game. Push your luck, draw ingredients from the bag. You don't want to explode. And pretty cool. This was a little crazy for us because one of the people we were playing with, Jen, was also involved in the pitch car tournament that was going on.
Yep.
And we were struggling to finish the game and get her off to the tournament to the point where she like left while we were still playing. We basically finished her turn for her to an extent. And then she got food delivered, and Mariella was like the courier, ran out of the gaming room to the lobby trying to meet this guy to get her food.
Except they dropped it off at her room.
Yeah, they went all the way up to her room.
So like now I have this phone and food, and I'm like.
And we felt bad. She was getting nervous. I think she was like, "Man, did someone just leave with my phone?" And I'm not going to get my food.
This is why food is so important during this retreat. Like, you have no time.
So that was Quacks. Always a good time. After that, I don't know.
Well, you want to talk about Pitch Car at all? That was fun.
So Pitch Car was something that you had to sign up for. It was basically a tournament. You want to talk a little bit about how Pitch Car works? Because you actually own a set, right?
Yeah. I hope we get to play it again. It was not well received the first time I brought it out. It was a little chaotic. Like you're flicking. So with Pitch Car, you have these nice wooden tracks kind of like I don't know what a classic game would be.
They're just like any Hot Wheels track.
Yeah, it's like Hot Wheels, but like with wood, and so you're building these custom turns and straightaway race tracks. But it's a dexterity game where you're flicking discs that are your race car, and you just take turns flicking to finish the track first. But at this retreat, they did it with
like 30, 40 people.
At least 20,
there were a lot.
If not more.
There were a lot.
Maybe 30, yeah. That sounds right. So Tom Vasel would just call out the color combination of your disc, and then you go up and flick it, and, you know.
Traffic jam.
I think the game is great, or it could be great, but it separates quickly into those who have a chance to win.
Yeah.
Everybody else who's in the bottleneck of failing to get around the turn or whatever the track feature is that you get stuck at.
Right.
But I think the most beautiful part of that tournament in a retreat like this is like you were really rooting for people to do the jump tricks, and like so you have a loop, you have a jump, you have like some rails that are missing so you can kind of fall off, and like you were invested. Like somebody was up who was up 5 times, and you were like, "Come on, you could do it!" And they do it, and everybody would scream. So
the cheering is
it's fun.
Yeah, it was a cool setting to have that game take place in.
For sure.
So I then played another game remotely with my wife, which was Metro X, a very cool flip and right we all love. And then we finish up the night with a game that I was looking forward to trying. I'm glad that we played this one. It's called Dinner in Paris. Very cool looking board, some pretty awesome little French restaurant type buildings and things like that. We wanted it to get, I think, a little ramped up faster, right? You're putting out like one square at a time in this big grid board, basically. And you're trying to get as much real estate as you can in front of your particular buildings. So the buildings are going around the side of the board, and you're basically building up your, I guess, like patio type area, your terrace, to get like the most spots. And then you want to try to get, you know, adjacent to some structures that are in the middle, like flower beds and fountains and things like that. I'm glad I tried this one before I bought it. I don't think I want it now, but it was cool to look at.
Yeah. I do. It reminded me a lot of Paris, which I think is a great 2-player game. It's a lot smaller.
Yes, we have that as well.
Yeah. I liked this one a lot more. And I think it has a lot of the same concepts. I mean, you don't have the buildings, and I think one of the pieces about Dinner in Paris, although I enjoyed it, but I feel like the little squares that build up, like it's just a lot of placement to get started.
It was very fiddly, yeah.
Where it could be like a slide track or something a little bit less involved. So I think, you know, I mean, I didn't win it, so that might change my perspective on the way that the game plays, but I did feel like it was a little...
Another game where Steve and Mariella were 1 point apart, and then there's me like 10, 20 points behind. You notice?
This makes sense. I feel like we're all doing our own thing. I don't know how we...
I think he just maths wrong, and I'm really the winner.
Math's wrong. Let's do a math test right now. Come on. So yeah, this game, it's a lot to set up. There's like a lot of little pieces to it.
Yeah.
And like you get those little buildings, like you said, and you kind of outline this Paris square. And that's like, it feels like that's like 20% of the game or less. And it's all these little terrace things. So it's like these terrace squares, you're building like almost polyomino terrace shapes out into the square.
Right.
And that's the thing you want to do. And the game limits you to just doing that once per turn. Yeah. And instead you have like 4 actions you can take, but only one can be the thing that gets you all the points.
And the shapes are large. They're like 6 or 4 or 5.
Yeah, so it's a slow burn to complete these objectives. Yeah. It kind of felt like a drag.
You're just collecting ingredients to... It's like you're collecting meat and cheese to build buildings. Or I guess to open up your restaurant. But there's too much fluff or extra stuff that didn't equate to what you wanted to do in the game.
Yeah.
With all that set up, I just feel like it's not worth it. I think Mariella made a good point with the Paris game. If you want to build Paris buildings dealing with restaurants, the Paris 2-player game is definitely a better option. faster and just as pretty.
Agreed.
Not more so. I also do love a game where you can build something like a building out of bread and cheese and apple.
Come to my palace of cheese.
My cheese house.
All right. Next day, we started off with a fan favorite. We played Owari a second time. That's the second time we played it for the retreat, and also Wrong. And Steve won this one, but we're not counting it, so it doesn't really matter.
Actually,
it's also the last game that I played before I had to head back.
Oh, that's right.
Wow.
Before I got on the plane and left, and my heart was royally broken, but also joyful for, seeing good friends. But I had one pick. I had one pick and all the things. And it was Dice Hospital, but I think that it was out at the time. And then Owari was for sure something that we already knew throughout the weekend, that we thought was really pretty, that was great for the three of us to play, that we knew we could do in less than an hour. So it was my goodbye game.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's a time crunch, so you have this whole week and extended weekend to learn these games, but learning games takes up a good amount of time when you're learning for the first time, to the point where, and I got to mention this now, one of the great things about the retreat is that they have these flags you can put up at your table that indicate either, a green flag indicates that you would like some players to join your game. Mm-hmm. And then there's a yellow flag, which indicates you would like someone to teach you that game that's set up. So a lot of times we would get a game that we wanted to play, and this more so even when it was just me and Steve, and we would just grab both flags, right? Because someone could come and teach us. Why not play with us if you're going to teach us? If you want to, right? I mean, you don't feel pressured. But I would say that happened probably 4 or 5 times where somebody came over, taught us the game, and played the game with us. And it was great having that experience because it took a lot of pressure off of us and saved a lot of time reading rule books and things like that.
100%. I feel like that made some of these games that we didn't get to yet. But a lot of generous, friendly people willing to teach us games. And they did it well. I mean, it was quick. So I'm sorry you didn't get to experience that too much. I think with 2 people, it might have been easier to find like a teacher. But
that's true. But after Owari, we played a game, Cascadia, which was one of my favorites of the event, at the very top of my wish list now. And Chrissy, who we mentioned earlier, was kind enough to teach us this game, and I'm glad she did. This was a really cool, abstract enough, but the nature theme is on there with the animal tokens and the different types of landscapes. I love a good tile laying game. This one has the hex-shaped tiles that are going to score you for different types of regions that you make, but also you're putting animals on them, which are going to score you additional points. But the cool thing about this game is it's a different setup each time. So there's, I think, 5 or 6 cards for each type of animal. So there's the hawk or whatever, but there's 5 or 6 different setups, scoring conditions on that animal. So every game is going to feel different. And I feel like because of that, I'm looking at the scores now, I think you're going to have a lot of close games of Cascadia. Our scores here were 94 for you, Steve. You won. I was behind you at 90, 88, and then 82 after that. So pretty close.
Same designer as Calico, but I feel like you don't feel as frustrated at the end of this one. It's you can do your own thing. You're not running out of space. It's a nice. I mean, I enjoyed playing with you. With 4 people, it was pretty quick, fast and fun, and like you said, that you could change out the animal scoring conditions, so every game will feel a little bit different at least. And like I said, it's fast, so definitely one of my favorites for the week.
Did you feel like you could teach it pretty quickly?
Oh yeah. That was a game that I feel like as soon as Christina was explaining it, I mean, I knew a little bit about the game beforehand. I knew that the cards had different, different layouts. But I feel like I could have gone and taught it as soon as it was over to somebody else. Yeah, for sure. All right. After that was a cooperative game. First one, I think. We played with Mark and Mac, two really funny guys. I played with them last retreat before that, so it was cool to see them again. This game is called Mystic Paths, which is a cooperative word game with a pretty ridiculous theme on top of it. What's the premise of this one, Steve?
The theme?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it's like wizards completing their final exam in the mystic,
some kind of forest where you can't speak certain words.
If you've already fallen asleep, it's it's like code names, and that you're giving clues to your it's a cooperative game, so you're trying to get your teammates to guess your words, but it's a circular grid of other circles with words, random words placed in them, and then you have a path that you're trying to progress your path over 5 or 6 turns,
right,
at a maximum of like 3 words per turn. So you choose 3 cards. They describe your words in order, and then you try to get your team to guess which spot on your path is next.
But you can't say anything. It's just the cards that you put out.
The best part about this game is that, code names, you might not know what they're referencing with their clue, but with this game, you have the adjacent pieces to compare against, and that allows your teammates to guess better. If you have like, I don't know, if your word was beautiful, and then there was like other words that didn't apply to that, they can kind of cross those out as options and then choose the better of the 2 words that are left, or what have you. But it was fun. I think they made it even better, but it's definitely I heard a little bit about it, and it was better to play in person than I expected, so I had a good time with that.
We had some good laughs.
Was there a favorite clue?
Well, so poor Mark was trying to get us to guess something, and I mean, it was just turn after turn. We kept screwing it up. Yeah, it was Thomas Jefferson, and it was
Independence?
Oh my God!
Those you don't get to choose your words. It's like 2 words on a card.
It's on cards,
that applies to it. But
what was it?
It doesn't matter. What it was, but the thing was, like, he had some intention with his first card. We didn't get it, so if you don't get it, then the card stays out there, and he put another card that should help your teammates guess it even better, because now you have 2 cards applying to 1 word. But I think we messed up that clue like 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
And to the point where in the second turn, he like pointed at the table, which is something you cannot do in the rules. He like pointed to the one that it should have been, and time passed and we forgot what he did. And so when we touched a different clue, we had to go with that, because that's the rule. If you touch it, that's your guess. And he was so upset, but in the best way. And I think it was
funny. And I was struggling because so you get this hidden path, right, that only you see with all the spaces you're trying to cover. Yeah. Mine did a double loop, meaning it went back to 2 words like twice
that you already used.
That I already used, right? And I couldn't say anything, and everybody was like, well, it can't be this one. In my head, I'm like, it is that one. Nothing said it couldn't be that one. It happened again.
It's one of those games. I mean, anytime I play code names, I have to do this because I can't look or hear, especially when they're like, she would never say that, or she would never think that. And I'm like, but I am. Mm-hmm. There's like this internal struggle of like a voice that's trying to come out and just give the answer, and it's not happening.
So for a cooperative game, we scored a 7.75. So we got a C, I guess, on that one. All right. After that,
my degree.
There you go. After that, we were lucky enough to get Chrissy again to teach us another game I was really looking forward to getting to the table, and one that is also on my Christmas list, and that is Meadow. Very, very beautiful looking game.
Yeah. This, more than, well, one other game coming up, but we didn't have a teacher for this. Well, I guess, I don't know. There's a lot of components. It's definitely a little confusing, and that we definitely got into it faster, and the game with 4 people goes on pretty long. So I'm very grateful that they were there that she was there to teach us.
And after playing it at 4, I realized pretty quickly that it would play well at 2, I think, as well, which is why I really would like to pick it up.
4 wasn't bad, but maybe like one round too long, perhaps.
That's fair. That's fair. So a lot going on. I mean, it is basically just set collection to an extent of just cards, but you can have 10 sets that you're collecting at one time. So you're building up these pretty high stacks. Definitely kept me intrigued and interested the whole time.
That's awesome. And just for a little context, when I left, I think I left the guys with a list of games that they needed to play so that we could at least get a taste of them. And one, actually the first one on my list was Meadow. So I'm glad that you were able to play it.
Yeah, pretty cool looking game.
It felt like a lot to learn at first, but it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a food chain. That's how you play the cards on top of each other.
Yeah.
But, in a good way. It's, you're not, the food chain only comes into play when you're looking to play a card. And it has to have, if you're playing a bird, it has to have a butterfly like an insect or something beneath it, because that's what a bird would eat. And so that's how you can play that card. But once you do that, you cover up the insect that you might use for something else, like Anthony said. So it's, you forget these things.
It had the most unique way I've seen of drafting cards, in that they're set up in this 4x3, I think, grid. And what you're doing is you're placing your tokens labeled 1 through 4 around these notches on this board. So you put it there, and whatever number it was that you played, so if you put a 2, you get the second card up in that row. Or if you played a 3 on the side, you get the third card over. So you obviously have your eyes on a couple cards that you want, but you may not get it the way you thought you were going to, right? You may spend a little more of a token value than you really wanted to, but if you really want that card, you're going to do it. So it was pretty cool.
This is a really pretty game.
I believe every card is unique.
Wow.
It's probably on our list too.
Your dad will love this.
I think so.
Food chain.
All right, so the virtual gaming continued after that. We played a game of Trails of Tucana, one of our favorite flip and writes, and I was able to play that with Lauren and my brother-in-law, who was at, or actually I should say, my wife was down at their house, so he played with us as well. Steve, you joined us for that one and won, of course.
Hard to do.
I don't know
Lauren.
how.
See, Steve's always like, "Hey, you want to play this game?" And I feel like he picks these games that he knows he's going to win at, because he knows.
I didn't pick Trails.
See,
Did I pick Trails?
He doesn't know he's gonna win. He's just gonna win.
He's just that good.
I would never pick. I mean, picking a roll and write up against Lauren, you're asking for trouble. I feel like
that's the other thing.
I will never bet on myself to win against.
We
Lauren.
played Fleet last night, and I beat her by like 10 points.
What?
See,
exactly.
This
absurd.
is like you telling me that you saw a Yeti. Like, I want to believe you, but I haven't seen it.
I will bring her in here right now, and she will testify that she lost by 10.
I'm gonna text her.
And then Steve introduced me to a game, 2-player only game called Mandala. Gorgeous looking game. I went out. This is the only game that I have purchased since the retreat. I went to my friendly local game store, Time Warp, and they had three copies there. Got that one. Just cards, square looking cards, but very beautiful artwork and a very cool like cotton linen sort of playmat thing, and a very streamlined and smooth 2-player only game. I really like this one a lot. So I'm very thankful that you introduced me to Mandala, like that one.
It's fun too, because it's strategic and not like mean. If you're into games, because 2-player games can be like you go, I go. It can be balanced one way or another. But this one you can block, but it doesn't. It feels strategic, not intentional.
True.
And there are other paths that you can sort of take in your gameplay. And there are times where I always feel like I have way more points than I actually do. And so, stacking and color collecting is really neat in that game, I think.
Yeah. And the 2-play areas is nice. Like you said, like you're not, it's competitive, but if you can't play in one, you can play in the other. So there's not.
You don't.
You're not
Yeah.
on toes.
You don't really feel like you're wasting a move either in this game.
Yeah.
You're always kind of getting something. All right, so after Mandala, I was like, well, Steve, let me introduce you to a game that you haven't played before, and maybe I'll win. Well, that didn't happen. We played King Domino Duel, and Steve still won. This is a two-player only roll and write based in the King Domino universe, I guess you would say. But a fun one. This one gets to our table a lot.
It's what I choose, you choose. I choose one, you choose two, and then I get to flip it over. So it's nice, and you just go back and forth. It's just two players, right?
That's correct.
It's dual, obviously.
Is it dice? Is it roll and write or flip and write?
It's roll and write. It's roll and write. It scores the same type of way that the King Domino, Queen Domino games score. Like you have to have whatever number of matching symbols or types you have in an area times the number of crosses or X's or crowns or whatever it is.
So
you multiply those points. So this is a game where you can get one section that you might score like 4, and then one that you might score like 60 something if you have enough multipliers and things like that. All right, that wrapped up that night. Next day, we kicked it off with a big one, which this was the one I believe Steve was alluding to about being thankful to have a teacher for, and that's the Lost Ruins of Arnak. We saw this one out a lot during the retreat. This one got a lot of table time.
Yeah, this was my
definitely.
We didn't talk
about
it
on the list. For sure.
This was a pickup from the game exchange at the end of the weekend, but I was very happy to get it. 100%. Very happy that we had a great teacher.
Who was that? Patrick? That was Patrick, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And his father too, right?
His father-in-law, Bill.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Older gentlemen, but they were. It was great. It probably played closer to 2 hours, but he did a great job teaching it. It's a lot. So when you put this game on the
would have taken us a lot longer if we were learning ourselves.
Absolutely.
That's for sure.
There's a lot of components there, but the gameplay goes quick enough. I want to play it again because I want to teach Mariella before I forget how to play myself.
So that I'll never forget.
But it's great. I think it's like over 4 or 5 rounds, and there's a lot of different things going on. You can do exploring. You can climb the mountain, so to speak, the ladder, whatever, get different points. It's interesting. It has an interesting explore element to it in that you have to get a certain amount of resources to basically explore this next level and have the transportation to get that far. And then once anyone reveals that area, it's sort of open ground for everyone to go there. But then there's also these like creatures and monsters that are guarding the stuff that you might want to defeat or run away from. Pointsality to an extent, right? A lot of different ways to get points. But this was a lot of fun. I'm glad I got this one played. Yeah. I don't know if I need to own it, but I would certainly play it again in a heartbeat. I don't even know how. I don't think I could describe it well enough to somebody else who has not played it. Right? Like even Mariella. I don't even. There's no. It's because it's a collection of mechanisms that work well together. It's a fun game, but like I feel like if I just gave one sentence to it, it would be hard to encompass everything that you can do in that game.
If you're the person pitching this game, I don't know how you would make it so succinct to describe it. There's a lot going on.
Yeah. Would you say it's like Raiders?
I haven't played that.
In that it's a worker placement, partially yes, but then you're also then you collect resources and it's like this other resource collection that you're using to progress in these tracks or buy cards or whatever. But it is worker placement and then a bunch of other things on top of it.
Cool.
Who won this one, Steve?
What's that?
Who won this game?
I'll have to check my.
I believe it was Anthony.
I totally forgot. Right. Best part of this game was I was on this little side track. I was like making sure I stayed 1 or 2 steps ahead of everybody else. And then in the last round, you have to calculate how many resources you have left. And I didn't do it correctly. And Anthony was gunning for it, and he passed me on that track, and I could just not catch up at the end.
That was exciting.
It was an exciting finish. I think that was
I
great.
won by 1 point. I beat Steve by 1 point, and then second and third place were also 1 point apart from each other. So
10 points back. Yeah, that was
another close one.
That was really good. And I can kind of you kind of see what everybody else is doing, but you're also too busy with your own stuff. But that was definitely a very exciting finish. Maybe the best conclusion to the games we played.
Yeah, I think so too. One of the longer ones that we played, but it didn't feel like it was dragging. I didn't feel that way anyway. All right, after that we played a quick game of Circle the Wagons, which was another one that Steve.
A classic. I love this game.
Did we talk about tumbling dice at all? Do you have that later in your?
Oh my God, you're totally right. I forgot about tumbling dice.
Arnak and the previous day, maybe. So tumbling dice. A game I'll probably never own, but a lot of fun in a retreat setting like that.
Yeah, I'm really glad we got to play this.
Yeah, you get a handful of dice. I think it's like 2 of every type of dice, from a 6-sided to a 20-sided die, and like every iteration in between. And then the way they had it was we have 10 people or so just circling a table with this stepped platform.
Yeah, it's got like 4 levels.
You throw dice on, right? And so the way they did it was we just walked around this table. When you got to the platform, you just quickly throw your die. Very quickly, you score points based on the face of the die that's facing up. Depending on how low you get on the platform, you score more points, and they multiply together. But it's fun. It's just chaotic dice rolling, and you get ridiculous scores if you do well. And, it's over in 5 or 10 minutes, and then you do it again if you want.
You just do it again. Yeah, it's great fun. And I think that the collection of dice that Tom has in his copy is not what comes with the game. I think the game is only D6s.
I think you're right.
So Tom's got everything in there, but
I'd recommend doing
saying. Oh yeah, for sure.
Do you only score what stays on the ladder, or?
Yeah. So at some point, there's a lot of it becomes a little bit of a shooting gallery if you're trying to get someone off there.
I know you were a bit of a target at one point because you had 10 or 12 on one of the 4 or 5 multipliers. So everybody was just gunning for you for a second.
Definitely a lot of fun. Definitely a lot of fun. All right. So after Arnak, we played a quick game of Circle the Wagons. Steve whooped me up on that. That's one of those pocket games from Button Shy, right? That's a really cool one. I'm glad I got to try that. And then back to the 2-player genre, a game called Blitzkrieg, which boasts the World War II in 20 minutes, is what it says on the box, I think.
It's about right.
Right.
Right. So 2 players, you have different theaters of war, which is in World War II, they had like the Pacific and the Western Front and the Eastern Front and a few others that are on the map. And you have a secret selection of either land or sea vehicles, tanks or boats or planes, and then that can dictate where you can place these on the board loosely. And then it's like a tug of war for once a theater has limited space, and once that space is filled, whoever has pulled their efforts in their direction enough gets points for that theater. And it's like to 20 or 25 points, so 20 minutes is accurate. And you're drawing from a bag, so it's the randomness there, but you have a selection to choose from.
It was a good balance of strategy and luck for sure.
I think we played this one incorrectly too. I know you won. I'm not discounting that at all. We played by those rules. I think you can place pieces you don't have to place them all the way to the left in the theater. You can place them wherever you want.
Okay.
Not that it matters. We were learning as we go. This is a game we taught ourselves. I still had a great time. I'll probably pick it up in the future. So, but you enjoyed it too, for the most part.
Oh yeah. This was cool for sure. All right. So Steve mentioned the game exchange table, and real quickly, we'll explain how that works. So if you bring a game that you are willing to part with, you are then allowed to receive a game And basically, everyone puts all these games on this table, and then Tom will draw names at random to an extent, and you'll go and pick a game to take home. So the whole weekend, we're kind of scouting out what's on the table. Here's my first pick, and then it's my backup pick. I believe Steve and I both got the first picks that we kind of had our eyes on at the end of the day. But the next game we played because there were several copies of it on the prize table, right? And so we were like thinking, well, if we get stuck with this one as a choice, let's see if we like it. So at least we have another backup one. It's called Raccoon Tycoon. I was not really sure what we were getting ourselves into in this game. This was a heavy bidding game, like an auction game, I should say, with money flying left and right.
Yeah, depends who you play with, because it's more than just bidding. You're also like there's like a stock market. Not the worst part of the stock market. Like you don't buy low and sell high. You can buy whatever you want, and then you just hope to sell high at the end.
Yeah.
This is a game that we were taught by somebody who played with us. I'm forgetting his name.
Yes, that was Chris. Yep.
Very nice guy. I think he taught us Dice Hospital later on.
Yes, that's correct.
But just speaking to my experience, it was intimidating because him and another gentleman, like, they had played the game before, and it was like cutthroat bidding, and I felt like I was I was way behind for the entire game, because you're buying property and also bidding on resources, and like there's like so many things you could do, and I didn't know what I wanted to do or what I should do. And so if you play with people who do, you're going to be in for a whooping. But I still had a good time, and I didn't lose. I mean, I lost bad, but not as. I thought I was going to have like single digit scores to their triple digit, and it wasn't that bad. What did you think of it?
I liked it enough. Again, but I would play it again. I don't know if I would have taken it from the prize table. Because I don't see a situation where I would have gotten this game out to my table for a very long time. I know that this is a game that would probably sit on my shelf and not get played.
Yeah.
But
fun art. It's kind of like fancy animals as a fan.
Yeah, fat cats and rich dogs and things like that.
Right. Glad I played it. If I play it again, I'll be happy to do it, but I don't think I'll search it out.
So one of the things I really love about going to the retreat, and again, we mentioned the whole thing with the flags. I last retreat got to teach a game to people that I did not know, and I got to do that again this year with this following game that is a set collection one called New York Slice, where you're building different types of pizza. And then
you have to track it.
Oh, you don't have this one?
Yeah, right. I should have done. It was fun.
We played this with Doug and Mary.
To play this game.
This is a really cool game. This has one of the best overall packages in a game that I've ever seen. It's the box is a pizza box, flip up, right? The rule book is like a menu. If it was on the table, you would not know that it was not a rule book. You would think it was a pizza menu. And the artwork is pretty realistic too, the pizza slices. So yeah, I got to teach this one. It's a really quick game with some cool set collection. And Doug whipped up on us real bad. I came in last. I got single digit points in this game. So there's that.
Yeah, it is so fast. Because you have the selection of pizza slices, and everybody has a turn. I don't think you have two turns, right? Where you build the pie.
It's an odd number of rounds. Okay. So I think you might have gotten to be the first slicer twice.
Yeah.
That's it.
But it's
yeah.
It's like 7 rounds ish, or maybe it was like 5. But basically what he means is like when it's your turn to go first, you're the slicer. And so you divvy up this pie into sections based on how many players there are. And then everyone's going to take one of those sections, but as a slicer, you take a last. So you're trying to make the splits as even as can so that, you're not left with garbage at the end. And then there's also like these specials that change up some scoring and things like that. But yeah, it's a fun one. Highly recommend this one, and it's pretty available, I think. All right, next we were back on track with Chrissy, who taught us another game along with Ellen, and that was My Farm Shop. This was a sleeper hit for me. I didn't really know anything about this game, but I really liked it. This is basically one of those games where everyone's going to get to do the same thing, but your board is different than everybody else's. So kind of like a Machikoro thing where if this number comes out, it could mean this for you, but it could mean this for somebody else.
Yeah.
And then you're building up your farm stand with milk and honey and some other kinds of resources, things like that.
Eggs. Yeah.
Eggs, yes, lots and lots of eggs.
Sacks.
Yes, that's right. Steve was the sack leader. Those sacks won that
Call
game
back
for
to,
you.
Magical Athlete from
That's right.
I was the sack icon. Actually, yeah, just real quick with that game, his collection of mismatched dice and meeple components or whatever made that game extra special.
I was unicorn poop.
You were.
It's a fun game, but it's next level with Tom, I think. His version.
And his enthusiasm for it, really.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah. He really is like a race host, like a carnival barker type personality, right? And that really draws you in when someone like that is facilitating a game. It just adds to the joy.
He was born for his role. I feel like.
Absolutely. But yeah, My Farm Shop, I liked it a lot. I thought it was pretty cool. You didn't like the artwork so much. I thought it was okay.
It reminds me of like cheap, phone app games or whatever. It didn't feel like it didn't have a style to it. Like,
it was generic. It was generic.
Farm people.
I agree.
But the game is super easy to play. You roll dice and then choose what you want from a small selection, and then everybody gets to play. And I think that was the biggest perk, was that everybody is always engaged every turn, even when it's not your turn to roll.
Yep. When someone's rolling dice and you get to still do stuff, that's key.
Yeah, I think it was critical to my enjoyment of that game. But it was fun. I got to play it again. The theme didn't do anything for me, but the fun, quick, constant gameplay was good for me.
Yeah, I would be really curious to try out Space Base after hearing the comparison of the two, for sure. All right, so after that, we got another quick virtual game in of Quinto, little roll and write. Not much explanation there, another fast one. And let's see, we're moving on to Copenhagen.
That's a lot of order. I had to do catch up. But Copenhagen, yep. I have the roll and write.
Right.
I was told by more than one person that they enjoy the roll and write more than the big box game, but I don't know if I would agree.
I don't know either.
I
think I'm a little torn.
We taught ourselves this game. You're drawing cards around a dock to place polyomino building pieces to try to get like 12 points. So
tower board.
We played it a few times, the roll and write, and I think we enjoy it, but like we never really like asked to play it, or it's low in the rotation.
Yeah.
But they did have the deluxe version there, so they had this like plastic window treatment for all the polyomino pieces, which is extra nice.
As opposed to like, I guess cardboard, the other version probably.
All I can think about when I pull out that game is it's like the mermaid, I guess.
Nice.
We learned it was a mermaid round marker or whatever it was supposed to be, but it's like the silhouette of a mermaid, but the wrong.
It's apparently some famous statue that us uncultured swine knew nothing about.
Yeah, we did not know.
But it was definitely fun. I like that one. I would pick that up. I think if I saw it like on sale or something, I would definitely grab that.
Yeah. Quick too. Like not didn't overstay its welcome. Half hour we were in and out, I think.
All right, so we're wrapping up this evening with another game that I have seen the Dice Tower folks play live many, many times, and we finally got to play it, and that's called Time's Up.
Oh yeah.
So this is a pretty epic party game.
Epic.
This is specifically Time's Up title recall, in which all the clues are names of things like songs or movies or books, things like that. We had a really big crowd for this one, right? It was like maybe 6-on-6 or something like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So big crowd. You're basically trying to get, it's a game where you're trying to get your teammates to guess the clue on the card. The unique thing about this game is, well, it plays in 3 different rounds. In the first round, when you're giving clues, you can say anything you want. It's kind of like the game of Taboo, right? You can describe it as much as you want without saying the word itself on the clue on the card. And if someone guesses on your team right, put it down, go to the next card. You have, I think, 30 seconds to do this stuff. But then that deck of cards goes to the next person, right, on the other team. And that's important because those cards you play with from round 1 are the same cards you're going to play with in round 2 and round 3. The difference is that in round 2, when you are giving clues, you are now only allowed to say one word. And then in round 3, you can't say any words. So you can sing or hum-ish to an extent, or do any kind of body motions at all. But this leads to a lot of laughter because there's some clues where you hear it the first round, you're like, how the hell am I going to like pantomime the title of this song that I know nothing about? I saw these titles and I was like, what is Lovelace and Babbage? I don't know what this means. I don't even know what these words are.
Yeah. The other setting was that this is now like 2 or 3 a.m. that we're so starting late to play this game. And then it was slightly outdated music and movies. The title, like Love Me Like You Mean It, kept coming up. It's stuck in my mind because those words, sure, I'm sure you've heard those words 100 times, but like to mime or describe that without using those words, near impossible, especially with mostly like older men who we were playing with, like the group. But also to its benefit, it did go on a little long, but I was crying laughing at certain points during that.
It was a great way to end the night for sure.
Yeah. And we got to see some people really shine in how they mimed. And
I heard about some really good actors.
Yeah. There's a gentleman from, I think it was from Mexico, who had great facial expressions and really sold his turn. So like those are the great parts of the game, because there's the lulls of the bad clues, but then people really did well given tough words to guess. So
definitely a fun one, and I agree with what you said. I hadn't really even thought about that, but a newer version of this would be beneficial, and there might be one. I don't know anything about that, but
we've played Monikers, which is very similar.
Okay.
Like minor rule changes,
Gotcha.
More relevant. I'd say like funnier clues, words to guess, but plays almost identical to Time's Up. So
cool.
That was my first time playing Time's Up. I enjoyed it.
Agreed. So I believe that was the last game of that night, which again was pretty late. Next day was the final day, so we didn't have a full day of gaming necessarily scheduled out. So we try to get the most out of it, and we started off with Dice Hospital, which poor Mariella did not get to play.
She will soon enough.
That was number 3 on my list of, although in my heart, number 1.
Do have it.
It was a lot of fun to watch other people play it, so I'm excited to hear about how you felt about it.
This was really fun, a very unique, here's your hospital sort of set up with these hex tiles that are each different, specialty rooms or whatever. And then just this influx of patients comes in the form of dice. And depending on the value on the die is how sick they are, really. So you're trying to keep everybody alive, obviously. And the first couple turns, you're like, all right, I'm pumping some patients out. But once you get, like, my hospital got filled of, like 3s and 4s at some point, you're just not going to get to save everybody. And it's rough. But some very cool ways to manipulate the dice. There's these extra hex tiles. You can build your hospital to bigger spaces, but also some specialists that you can have in that are going to do some different things, like allow you to manipulate 2 dice instead of 1, or change a color or whatnot. And another game that overall we're very spoiled to play these games at the Dice Tower Retreat because the upgrades are just absurd in some of these games, and this was one of them for sure. These upgraded ambulances that were like literally like this big, all different colors with little notches on top to put the dice in. Totally unnecessary, but totally
definitely
awesome.
Adds to the experience.
Did you get them?
I did get them.
You did?
Yeah, I found it.
I mean, how do you go back?
That's what I said. That's the one downside is you get spoiled and you're like, I don't want to go back to this cardboard garbage.
I know she wanted to play it. I wanted to play with her. I told you the 2 places online I tried to buy it from, placed the order, and they canceled it on me. So this was without the deluxe components. And then I found a place, because it's hard to find now. And then I found a place, they had the deluxe components, and I was like,
it was meant to be.
I'll do it. So I'm that guy that bought this unnecessary.
You gotta paint them. You gotta paint them now.
Well, my favorite part about this is this is what we'll be doing this weekend is painting this little guy.
Nice.
It's a bonding experience. That's why
so excited
there you
for.
Go.
Super quick. I feel like you're just drafting dice and then dealing with it. It definitely escalates when you have to get people out the door as fast as you get them in, or faster. And we love dice drafting games, so it was an easy sell for us too.
Yeah, agreed. All right. After that, we got to play another game that Steve was really looking forward to, and one that I've heard a lot about, and that's Res Arcana.
Actually, not. I mean, we did play that game, and that's what we're talking about. But I had only heard about it. But we met a friend who wanted to join in at the end of Dice Hospital, and we let him pick a game, and this was that game, Res Arcana. One for me that I watched some reviews. I understood kind of what it was, but I didn't really invest too much time in learning it. And this might have been one of my favorite games that we played the whole weekend.
Really?
It's somewhere in transit. I'm really wanting to play it again, but it's a hard one to explain. You're trying to get 10 points, so it goes really quick, but
it's a race. You have some resources, trying to build out some cards that are going to get you points. And there's a little bit of attacking as well, but not too much.
I think my favorite part was there's like a mutual or collective set of cards that you kind of borrow from at the end of your turn that gives you an extra ability, like swapping out 3 cards or getting 2 resources or whatever it might be. But I really enjoyed it because you have different needs at different points during the game. Mm-hmm. And so you may want this card, but if somebody else happens to have it, something else you can do about it. So you take something else and that's fine. But there's, the interaction is light to medium with other players.
Sure.
But you start to build your machine slowly but surely over, maybe 5 or 6 rounds, I think. And then the game's over. It's like 30 minutes. And having never played it before, I felt like we stuck pretty close to that. I think they give you like starting heroes to work with. So you have some incentives to follow in order to do well. But I think the second and third, after the first game, you can pick your own hero and then choose your own path and and choose how to get those points. There's like a magical theme to it, which whatever, it's cool, great fantasy, magic, dragons, all great. But I don't know if I could put my finger on why I enjoyed it so much, although I definitely did.
Good.
Even though I won, that's not why I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that sounds.
Not only did he win, he got more points than myself and the other gentleman, Adil, who played with us combined. So there's that.
It happened all in one turn. But I
not to brag, but
he did. He bought like 3 or 4 cards in one turn and went from like 2 points to 11 points. It was like
this is a game that you would play but wouldn't search out. Am I doing this too much? You enjoyed this game, but you wouldn't buy it, right? Is that kind of where you land?
That's a fair statement. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I would definitely want to play it again because it's one of those games where you do it and you're like, okay, now I see what you were doing there, and I would like to get a second shot at it for sure. All right, coming near the end here. Next one is one that we eyed up a lot and wanted to play many times, and it was always out. Definitely was on the tables a lot. And that's the party game So Clover, another cooperative type of party game. This is another one that you already had owned, right?
We played it once with my family.
We literally played like a day or two before going to the retreat.
Oh, okay.
I was really impressed that it was out as much as it was, but I could, because I don't want to say it's not like a strategy game or you're not like really evolving a lot of rules. Like you are basically just trying to get folks to guess,
right.
You know, what you mean by using one word in description of two other words. So I was very, very, and I think even I had a conversation with Tom, who was also like kind of surprised that this game was coming out often, but it is a really good party game.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I like trying to link things together. It's another one of those games where it's cooperative, so you get just kind of like a score at the end, which is nice because you don't feel defeated, and you have a good time. You play it again right away if you want. This one was pretty cool. I like the components too. The Clover tray to put your cards on. You write on that. And I love how it had little tiny feet so that when you put it down, it didn't smear the dry erase marker. It's little things like that I appreciate.
I think it was a nice cap to the weekend too. All those people we played with were people we played with throughout the week. I feel like, and that was just
that's true. That's true.
You know, a nice little like send off.
Yep.
Chris Yee from the Dice Tower was great to join us, and
yeah, I'm glad we got to get a game in with him.
Yeah, it was like on the tail end of everything, but it was fun. I'm sorry you weren't there.
I have a question though. If I said Shadow Snack, what would you think that is?
Shadow Snack?
I think I know the answer.
It's a one-word answer?
It's one-word answer.
Shadow Snack. I don't know. Oreos?
Is it popcorn?
It's popcorn.
I think I only know because I think that's actually the clue that was given. But it's good.
I said Shadow Snack, and nobody could understand that it was popcorn. Or no,
I still don't get it.
Words were shadow and snack, and my clue was popcorn. And I thought that was like it's the only snack that you eat in the dark among Twizzlers and.
You see, in years past, people would go to these large buildings and watch films in dark rooms, and have snacks in the dark as they watched. Popcorn was a popular choice.
I really thought that was a winner, and nobody could guess it. They were like, popcorn. I
don't know.
That's tough. That's a tough game in that a lot of times you have a clue that's a card there that's sort of like a throwaway because it just doesn't go anywhere else. And I think a few times it was part of the discussion was like, hey, they probably didn't have any other option with this one. So I think we can kind of ignore this word and go for this other one. And it worked out well. What did we score? We got a 24 on that. I'm not sure if that's good or not.
Big number.
The time we played before, we had a 23 with my family.
Okay.
So, it's...
I think was it like 6 points? Yeah, 6 points possible for each thing, I think.
6 if you get it perfect. If you guess it first try, and otherwise it's like 4 or
3,
however many you guess correctly.
Cool.
It also you're at the whim of the two words making sense together in some respect, or trying to make sense of it. And also I think you pull a card at random, and I remember playing, and one of my cards on my grid was Scarlet, and we pulled an extra card where it was red, and it was like, you're ruining everything. So there's a potential for this new card to really derail.
Just be wreckable.
Yeah, just be a total mess.
Yeah, that's like when you play Codenames and there's that one that's the assassin that's like, pig or something, and there's like 5 other animals on the grid. Yeah.
And they're like, it's definitely that one. This is why I play code names like this. I can't show my face because I'm like.
So that was literally the last game we played, in the retreat itself. I will say, I think that we got the most of our time that last day. I believe Steve and I left the hotel about 5:30 p.m. and I'm pretty sure that they were closing up the library about 6 o'clock. So, we really couldn't have gotten more.
We saw Z make the final call.
That's true. Yeah, we heard last call. But that was not the last game of the weekend, because then Steve and I played a game in the airport.
A new flipping right.
My favorite.
All on one card, or
German.
Alles auf ein Karte.
There you go.
German. It's only in German. Might be available now, but yeah, it's another one in the flipping right series. I like this one because, again, when you roll, everybody gets to take something from it. So you roll dice to get certain colors on your card. You want to fill up all your cards, but whenever you roll, everybody gets to use whatever you chose to keep after 3 rolls, like the Yahtzee rules.
And you're also working on 2 cards at the same time, so
right.
You can kind of choose where you want to.
Trying to finish 4, you have 2 cards in front of you, and light, fun. I think I enjoyed silver and gold. When I think about flipping rights, I think silver and gold first. So I often compare it to that, and I don't know if I like this more than that. It's it's good, but I
think I only like it more because it has dice. I feel like dice just always adds like a random component that like you cannot really control, and like when in silver and gold you may take out a piece, but you know what you're expecting. With dice you can't really make that distinction. But I also enjoy that other people get to partake in your role and gain some kind of, which also you can sort of see. So if you're like the player like me that kind of looks at everybody else's grid and say, no, this person wants orange, I'm going to re-roll that and better my game to
that type of person
to block. It's just strategic playing. I'm not hurting anyone.
So, folks, that is the end of the game list. I think there was 36, 37 games total. And again, that's counting ones that I played virtually with my wife that these guys may not have been in on. So there's that. But before we totally end it here, just some final thoughts. I would say this is definitely an event that is worth checking out if you like games at all. It is not a convention. There are not vendors there. You're not going to roam the halls. You're probably not going to buy anything, but you are definitely going to play a lot of games. It's a great way to play games that are not out yet, which quite a few of the ones that we played were. It's a great opportunity to play games with folks that you might have seen on the Dice Tower or other things online, which is really cool. And again, you're playing with very, very nice, almost always upgraded pieces in these games.
I feel like we like the like the PAX conventions. They're great for what they are, but this, I felt at peace here.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe people who are outside the current board game community might think that be judged for not knowing these games, or that it'd be like tough to get into from the outside. But honestly, like everybody we met, so nice, so willing to take the time to teach us things, no judgments.
Right.
And then we just, that's all we do for 4 or 5 days, with no other stresses. You kind of just like leave the world behind you. We had such a great time together. I wish we had the full length, but I just know that we'd want to do it again. As soon as we get the message to sign up next year, we're going to do it.
Well, that's the other cool thing, right? Is this is an event that once you go to, you basically have first dibs at going to again. And because of that reason, you're going to see some of the same people, and again, I've only been twice, but already in those 2 times, There are people that I recognize because I played with them last time. They recognized me because they played with me last time. And now, again, people that we played with for the first time this event. Next time we go, if they're there, we're gonna be like, oh, yeah, it's Chrissy. Oh, it's Chris. We're gonna get another game in. Blah blah blah. And that's just really cool because then it becomes almost like an adult summer camp thing, right? Where you have these friends that you only saw this one time a year, but it was so magical because it was so limited and so unique.
Yeah, and I really think, when we consider the amount of opportunities that we have to really dive into this culture of gaming that we adore, and be able to kind of connect with new people and just be in a room full of folks that you don't have to explain why you enjoy this so much.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And down to the small setting, like, there was never a time that there wasn't, space to breathe, or, like it was just the perfect amount of people, perfect amount of concentration. It wasn't like super loud, and like it was just in this piece of this thing that you enjoy and like you come home to be in this. I mean, like, this is our sanctuary. But to discover that there are new games that are, rolling out, and that you get to experience that firsthand, particularly around the Dice Tower collection,
right?
With all the components in ways that maybe, you might not experience that game at home. It's really unique. And the best part is, like, you just get to go upstairs and go to sleep, like, or go into the restaurant and eat. Like, everything is so accessible. Everyone is so accommodating. I honestly, my expectation was in that convention level of like a lot of people, very noisy, but I still wanted to go to get the games in. And then finding this like beautiful balance of peaceful gaming and also like 2 a.m. ruckus that I also enjoy. I can't wait for the email and like to see everyone again. Like you said, meeting new friends and
yeah.
I think.
All right, go ahead, Steve.
Just to recap.
Yeah.
They keep it to like just a couple hundred people there, and I don't know if I realized it then, but like you walk in that room, and if you want to play your own game, there's space for you to do that. If you want to join somebody else's game, more than likely somebody's looking for people to join. So there's just this perfect use of options. If you want to play by yourself, you do it. Play with other people, learn a new game, play a game you're familiar with.
Yeah, you're never in a situation. You're never like leaving the room and be like, "Oh, I can't play a game right now." Like,
Yeah, or you're waiting in line. Like, no, it's just you want to play. What do you want to play? Yep. You got the whole wall of games to choose from. It's really something to admire because that was unexpected.
And I would say the hardest thing was finding a game if you didn't know what you wanted to play. So definitely have a list, like go through the list that they send ahead of time, have a plan. But even going through the library, you could spend an hour there and just reading the back of boxes. And like, that is also just like lovely.
And to your point, what I will say that they did this year that was pretty cool. Well, they always have a catalog of all the games, the binder that has where they are and where they're located, where to get them. But they also had random pages in there that had lists of things like these are 10 classic games that you should play at least once, or here's 10 filler games, 10 party games. So there was that kind of recommendation where you're like, okay, what kind of game am I in the mood for? Let me look at what the Dice Tower recommends and things like that. And again, if you were ever just like not know how to approach someone, go up to Tom or somebody else and be like, I want to play a game, and you get a game. That's it. Simple as that. Highly recommend this event in the future to anybody who's watching this. Very much thank yous to Tom and Sharon Madden and everyone else in the Dice Tower who puts this thing together. Thanks for Steve and Mariella for joining me on the trip and joining me today to yap a little bit and reminisce about it. Hopefully you all enjoyed it as well. All right, my friends, anything else you want to add before we pull the plug?
I do. If you go to the retreat, find us. We're always looking for new players, and we're always looking to find our board game dad family.
Awesome. Good to hear. All right, folks, that's it for now. We'll see you next time. Have a great night.